Jonathan Givony over at Draft Express in his mock draft for the first time moved Ace Bailey lower than the number 3 pick. The Philadelphia 76ers, he had them taking VJ Edgecombe. So with Bailey in the draft community, it's been kind of a topic all year. Is he actually the 3rd best prospect? And then Philly moves up and it becomes an even bigger conversation. And now a week out, it does seem like VJ Edgecombe is the favorite for that pick there. Edgecombe, a freshman wing out of Baylor. Now, he's a guy that I think people were hoping to see at like 5, 6, 7.
Right.
At this point, moving up to number 3, what do you like about Edgecombe and what do you think about the Sixers possibly favoring him over Ace Bailey?
He fits so well with what the Sixers want out of that position. I mean, just a wildly talented defender who can guard, switch a bunch through multiple positions on the wing. And I think the athleticism pops. Obviously, that's one of the main things that you talk about when it comes to VJ Edgecombe. But there's always that like promise of more. And I think when it comes to what his role could be in Philly, there's a world in which like he can come along slowly and figure out the offensive creation part because you have Maxey, because you have Jared McCain, Embiid if he's fully healthy, Paul George, right? Because you have these other guys who can create their own shot, who can be offensive hubs for you. It allows VJ to kind of like come along slowly, figure out things, attack closeouts, which he's really good at, use that athleticism in transition, and then figure out the offensive creation part as he goes, which I think is the most intriguing part here. With Ace, I'm curious to get your opinion on this. Like, does the character stuff, is that like a situation of him being the issue or teams maybe wanting something out of him to compensate for some of the issues that he had throughout the year at Rutgers? Does that make sense?
I think it's a little bit of both because, so like with VJ Edgecombe, just to kind of juxtapose it against that, VJ Edgecombe is the type of guy that he's willing to take a back seat. He's willing to play different roles. For the Bahamas national team, he ran more point. For Baylor last year, he was more of a 3-and-D guy. And certain competitions of high school, he was more of the go-to option. So he's taken on different roles and happily done it and done his best in those roles. It's not like his effort ever wavered at Baylor. He's flying around for rebounds, playing hard. Like the dude is really going to be a good role player. And as you spot on said, has a chance to still be a star. So VJ Edgecombe, like in the context of Philly, I think checks the helps in the short-term box and could help a lot in the long-term box. Ace Bailey, with him, those character or personality concerns, I think, an executive said to me over the weekend that Ace Bailey's a good kid. They worry about some of the influences around him with decisions, the lack of workouts that he's been doing, the mindset and approach, who's in his ear about who he is and what his expectations should be early in his career. But some of that is also driven by Ace Bailey's own choices. He chooses his agent. He chooses who he spends his time around. And with Ace Bailey, he very much does see himself as a future superstar. Now, maybe he is. And if you're a team that believes that Ace Bailey is a future superstar, I think you would view that vision he has for himself as a good thing, because a lot of times in life to accomplish something, you have to have the vision, you have to have the goal, you have to know what you're chasing instead of wandering around aimlessly. So he has this vision, but if your vision is aligned with him, that's a good thing. If it's not aligned with him, well, that's where you get into like a Kuminga type of situation where Steve Kerr's like, we want him to be Sean Marion. And Jonathan Kuminga's like, no, Sean Marion, I want to be the guy, not one of the guys. Yeah. And so that's where, like, when Philadelphia, people talk about, well, he shot 39% on catch and shoot threes. If he takes more of those and less bad shots, he could be a great role player if he puts more time into his defense and all that. It's like, no. Ace Bailey wants to be the guy generating shots, taking those mid-range pull-ups, taking those extremely difficult shots that he can make around 39% of the time. He's not the most efficient player at those. So I think I've been burned with, intel on guys like Anthony Edwards doesn't care about basketball.
Right. Like, and look how that turned out.
And look how that turns out. So I don't value that as much as I just have my concerns about Ace Bailey, the basketball player. I'm not sure, like, people compare him to Michael Porter Jr. Michael Porter Jr. had a flamethrower jump shot in high school. Michael Porter Jr. was an elite shooter since he got out of the womb. Ace Bailey is inefficient. He was shooting around 50-60% from the free throw line earlier in the year. He's always been very streaky, even on open shots, not just the heavily contested shots that he takes. Up and down on defense, passing vision is not great. So to me, I get the swing on Ace Bailey if you're the team that can afford to take that swing. If you're the Sixers at number 3, I think it makes all the sense in the world to take VJ Edgecombe there or trade down from that number 3 spot and take whoever it is at number 5 or 6 or 7, wherever it is that you end up trading down to. Now, with Edgecombe, we got one mailbag question that I think is interesting from 3 Stings. And he asked, is Philly's interest in VJ Edgecombe smoke to make Charlotte trade up? That's interesting because Edgecombe has been connected to the Hornets throughout this whole process. So,
yeah.
S, do you think this is smokescreen season? Is there a chance here that this is now leaking out from the Sixers because they just want their intentions are to move down and just keep getting assets and assets and assets moving down multiple times?
It's funny. You could kind of go both ways with this because both ways feel like Daryl Morey type moves, right? One, VJ Edgecombe kind of fits the build of what kind of player Morey likes. Generally, can do a bunch of everything. Really, really great two-way guy, right? And so from that perspective, you can understand why the Sixers want to make this pick. The other side, it's Morey also wants to get the best bang for his buck when it comes to trades. So that also makes sense. To the Hornets part of this, it's like he also fits extremely well with LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller. And
absolutely,
if they like to keep Williams at the center spot, he kind of rounds out that starting unit in a really good way. You could make the argument for VJ Edgecombe basically, in my opinion, honestly, from 2 all the way to wherever you want to throw him. Now I don't know if the Spurs would actually go ahead and pick VJ Edgecombe at 2. I just think he'd be a really good fit for what they do. I don't know. I'm not sure if Morey's going to do it, though. I think he would rather just pick at 3 and roll with it from there. I do like the idea of them trading down further, though, and getting more assets. So if the Pelicans or the Wizards are really interested in trying to get VJ or Ace, then from that perspective, you might be able to get from the Nets, maybe a Cam Johnson and other stuff. Maybe from the Pelicans, if you're looking, I don't know, are the Pelicans willing to trade Trey Murphy to be able to get up to number 3? I don't know. I feel like that's probably too much. But these are the type of things that you're thinking about at this point if you're moving down from 3 to 7 or 8 or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the trade down is so fascinating because I wrote a column on Yahoo Sports today about kind of the history of top 3 trade downs. And the last 45 years, there's only been 10 teams that have traded down from a top 3 pick within the lottery. So that includes, number 1 for number 3 in 1980, the Joe Barry Carroll, Kevin McHale, and Robert Parrish trade between the Celtics and the Warriors, and includes Tatum and Fultz. It includes Luka and Trey. There's a lot of the biggest, most pivotal trades in NBA history have been these trade downs from the top 3 down to number 5 or number 6 or number 7 or even within the top 3. So I think for Philadelphia at 3 and for San Antonio at 2 and even Charlotte at number 4, I think that really those 3 teams consecutively all have a lot of incentive to trade down. Now, what's the price to move up? I mean, a week ago on my pod, Tom Haberstroh mentioned, well, what if the Jazz offered 5 and Lauri Markkanen for number 2? Or like as you kind of just said with Trey Murphy and number 7 from the Pelicans and number 23, which they just got from the Pacers. What if that were a package offered for number 2? Would the Spurs think about that? Would they? I think you at least take a meeting. 2 to 7's a big drop, but if you're also getting Trey Murphy, who's young, and also getting number 23, maybe you can package 14 and 23 to move back up into the top 10 again. I don't know. I'm just spitballing.
Right.
I think all of these conversations and ideas are being thrown around front offices right now, and it's going to happen until draft night. It's just that's the way it's going to go. And there might be surprises. And so